Welcome back to another Stand on Guard. Happy Father's Day. Thanks for joining me today. When we come back, some highlights from yesterday's One Nation Under God rally for children here in Ottawa. So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist. Well, thank you for joining us today. We had a heck of a time yesterday downtown Ottawa at Parliament Hill. This was a multifaceted event. It was billed as the One Nation Under God rally for children, but it was also tied in with the walkout for kids that occurred this month as part of the My Child June month, which was all about opposing parents and children who oppose the pride flag being raised every year in schoolyards across the country, and for children to be indoctrinated into this LGBTQ plus ideology. It's nonstop. It's no longer just Pride Month in June, it's Pride season, and parents are saying enough. We've had enough of this. So the organizer of all of this is my friend Camille el-Cheikh. He's a Muslim activist from Ottawa, an Ottawa businessman. He's had a multifaceted career. And I interviewed Camille just before the speeches started on Saturday, June 15th, here in Ottawa. So I'm with the organizer of today's One Nation Under God protest. This is for parents. This is for parents to take back their country, their children, and their rights. And this is the organizer with Hands Off Our Kids, my friend Camille el-Cheikh. Camille, what can we expect to happen today?
Well, David, this is actually the One Nation Under God celebration for everybody. If you remember, take you down memory lane a year ago, we came together at the board at Greenbank, and Christians and Muslims and other factions, First Nations, were concerned. Everybody was upset. Nobody really knew what to expect. And so we had that pact that day. And I can remember the voices of cheers of that relief that we're going to do something together. And we're going to celebrate that day today with the One Nation Under God rally. I'm just going to point you to that speech when we said there's a rhetoric in the media to tell Christians that Muslims don't like them, or to tell Muslims that Christians don't like them. And then I looked at the audience and said, I looked and pointed at all of them and said to them, you guys are proof that we are one nation under God. So we're going to solidify that as part of My Child June campaign.
It's going to be a great day. We'll report back later. Thank you, Camille.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, it was a great day. And that was just the beginning, because we had some real highlights of this. And I wanted to, here we are marching. We went out on the streets for about a 1 mile march.
My child June!
This is phenomenal.
My child June! My child June!
Now, what was this all about once again? This is about opposing an ideology that's being imposed on our children at schools. And everybody who has a child in the school system knows that it's no longer just about education, about teaching children how to read, how to write, how to do basic math, how to know history. You know, Canadian kids graduating from grade 12, a huge percentage of them think we were on the side of the Germans in the Second World War. We're not teaching history. We're not teaching English. My God, it's deteriorating every week. But they're doing a great job of indoctrinating children in all kinds of bizarre sexuality. You go into the libraries of even elementary schools and you can find pornographic books, not just the text, but the pictures. This is all allowed because the LGBTQ plus agenda is politically protected. And you saw yesterday in Ottawa, parents saying no. Now, about 500 people were marching, but the real success of this has been the walkout at schools, where across the country, Camille tells me there's been about a 50% participation rate, as high as 70% in the Ottawa area at French Catholic schools. At some schools, the participation rate was 90%. But that is phenomenal because parents didn't think they had any leverage. Parents didn't think they had any room to breathe on this, and they're showing otherwise. So, people ask me, should a journalist be as involved in this as I was? And you'll see in a minute I was very involved in this march, in this protest, in this celebration, in this rally. I say yes because this is a culture war. And the media writ large, the mainstream media, the legacy media, has been in the pocket of the LGBTQ plus activists for the last decade or two. They uncritically report whatever these activists want them to report, or whatever the government, who is actively on the side, who are completely also in the pockets of these activists. They report exactly what they want them to report, and they don't criticize, they don't question, they don't talk to opposition. So we need to push back. Journalists need to push back and say this is a culture war, and we need to be clear about that. We need to know what side we're on. This is like the Second World War in many ways. Journalists, if you lived in Canada or the United States or the UK, you knew which side you were on, and it was unequivocal. There was no question about that. Now let's listen to some more highlights here. Very historic day, because we're recognizing that despite all the problems in the world and the division that this Prime Minister wants to sow between Christians and Muslims and Jews and Hindus and Sikhs, we are united on what matters: parental rights, and that the state does not raise our children, and that we raise our children. And I can't overemphasize that. So what is this about today? When I was interviewing Camille to start, I said this was a protest, and he corrected me. He said this is a celebration, and this is a celebration. It's a celebration of children, because we have a lot to celebrate today. As you all know, we had the first ever demonstration during Pride Week, so-called Pride Week, where we asked children to sit out the raising of the pride flag, or just not to go to school, as a means of saying we don't support what's going on here. That protest was overwhelmingly successful from coast to coast. We had an average of 50% of children across Canada not going to school and to participating in those pride ceremonies. Now, you won't see any of that in the mainstream media. Now, I've reported that on my channel, and I also write for the Post Millennial and Human Events. New media is reporting this. The legacy media doesn't know what to do, because they didn't think Canadians had it in them to push back and to say, no, you've gone far enough and you will go no farther. And so what this is about is instilling courage in parents across the country to say, leave our kids alone. It's that simple. Before we go to the next segment, this is Camille talking to the group. I say again, I was the master of ceremonies at this event because I believe it's important for Canada. I think I can still report objectively on this issue, but I do believe it's important for journalists to say we need to make a stand. We need to be clear that parents feel alone and isolated, and they were pushing back. I tell you, for years, I waited and I expected somebody to come forth and to say, enough, we are being pushed farther and farther to the woke left by the schools, by the governments, by the school boards, and that somebody has to say stop. And this man here was about to speak. He started this a year ago. And last September 20th, he organized a 1 million person march. You can see that sign behind him. And that's going to happen again this September 20th. Another 1 million person march to protect children from gender ideology in the schools. So right now we're focusing on why we don't want to have a pride season at the schools. We're telling the government and the schools and the school boards to mind your own business, get your nose out of our schools, out of our children's lives. Stop teaching our children sexuality that they don't need to know about at 10 years old. Start teaching them what they do need to know to get on with life. Basic education, which you are disregarding, so you can teach an ideology that I believe is very destructive. So the 1 million person march in September is focusing on the gender ideology, the fact that somehow we've come to the point in this country where kids think they can change their pronouns and they don't have to tell their parents, where we have 12-year-olds having sex change operations. This is barbaric. This is not about protecting children. This is not about any kind of health care. This is a savage invasion upon children and upon the lives of parents. And this needs to stop. And this is what the 1 million person march was about last September and will be about this September. It's about protecting children. Justin Trudeau doesn't want to protect your children. The school boards don't want to protect your children. They want to advance an agenda, an ideology. That's all they're concerned about. So let's listen to Camille here. He had a wonderful speech yesterday. I was very impressed.
September 20th, ladies and gentlemen, is the start of the school year. What we're telling the country is, here's my kid. We're going to put him in this class, and we're going to follow up with my child, June, to reaffirm that Canada's children belong to Canada's parents. My beautiful wife gave us 3 kids. Now, I was the result of that, yes. But they wanted us to say, we are pregnant. We are not pregnant. We are expecting, ladies and gentlemen. She is pregnant. So they've even gotten into the English language, which is a beautiful language. I went to high school here in Ottawa. I studied Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet and Julius Caesar. And there's one part of Julius Caesar where he says, I don't know, I think it was Cassius. He says, you rocks, you stones, you more than senseless things. And I say that to you, Mr. Prime Minister, and the degenerate people around you. You rocks, you stones, you more than senseless things, because you have no empathy for Canadians.
I do see injustice. I do see suffering. I do see inequality.
Now we have, this is a guy speaking here who makes most of these signs, Howard. And he is just phenomenal. He also works at a Vietnamese restaurant in Ottawa that's phenomenal as well. But he is fantastic. He's been coming to the Hill for years. He supported the Freedom Convoy all of his time and energy, and he was out again yesterday. Just listen to Howard.
But not the type that you're being taught. I do see communism, Marxism, socialism, slowly and rapidly, though, creeping into our government, our society, our schools, and harming our children. And that has to stop. We have to protect parental rights. We have to fight for freedom for all, not just on this issue, because everything is connected. The globalists are dictating what's going on. And all they're doing is throwing money at it, printed money too, just to influence us, just to barrage us with all these problems, economic, social, education, medicine. They've been playing us for such a long time, and we have to combat it any way you can. And the way I do it is through signs and try to reach people on the ground, because we know censorship is heavy online, in newspapers, in the media. So we have to combat it. And boots on the ground is my way of doing it. Since the Freedom Convoy, and even before, I was here. And I felt I had a niche, and that was to communicate through signs. And as you can see from this great presentation from all our guests, I try to have a sign that addresses everything that they throw at us. And guess what? Their narrative is really crumbling. We have to keep reaching out to people, keep asking questions, make people ask questions, provide them with solutions, and keep at it. We never quit, because this is for our children and their future. And I don't want to see a Canada where my daughters and my nieces and nephews and my friends and my extended families to go through tyranny.
Now, we also, of course, had a guy there.
He goes, who's your target audience?
A guy there waving a Trump flag. And this is a fascinating interview, because I wish the flag had have said 2024 Trump. But he had a 2020 Trump election flag. And he explained why he was there. And this is why people are really feeling they're getting their voices back. That there's a chance of snatching freedom back. And this is what I'm hearing from people at these rallies.
And I said, oh, Canadians that hate Trump. So I told him 3 times, and it just didn't get in. There's nothing there. So I said, are you Canadian? And he said, maybe. I said, well, you better go if you don't know whether you're Canadian or not.
Wonderful. That was an absolutely wonderful moment. And I have to say, before I get back to the final interview here, so many people came up to me and they said, we watch you on Redacted. Well, I'm glad you watched me on Redacted. I'm on Redacted with Clayton Moore and Natalie Morris about once a week to talk about Canadian issues, usually about Trudeau's outrage of the week. But thank you for watching, and thank you for watching this station. Some of you also watched the station who came up and said hi. But I was really encouraged, because I'm always saying that there's just too much garbage out there from conservatives on YouTube saying the same nonsense every day. Trudeau is going, he's going to go to jail. Trudeau is losing it. Trudeau is on the verge of being kicked out. It's all over. It's all over. And of course, you say that long enough, one day it's going to happen. But we need serious discussion and not just ad hominem insults about Justin Trudeau. We all know Justin Trudeau is a bad guy. We all know Justin Trudeau is a poor leader. We all know Justin Trudeau is grossly incompetent. But we need more. We need to ensure that who replaces Justin Trudeau, and that's probably going to be Pierre Poilievre, understands that we cannot have an extension of the status quo. There has to be change, real change. And it has to be courageous, not just tinkering with the system. And that's what we need to focus on. It's not that Justin Trudeau is all wrong and the Conservatives are all right. They need to be encouraged and they need to be told that we will not sit by and watch the Conservatives act like the Liberals. They need to be reminded of that. It's a lot of good Conservative MPs. But we always have to ensure that the Conservative Party is not pushed too far to the left. And this is why we need to do more on YouTube than just insult Justin Trudeau. We need to have mature analysis from real journalists, not people who just sit in their basement and show clips from other people's news. Get out there, interview people. Get out there, cover the news. You want to be on YouTube as a conservative, small c, conservative journalist? Go out and be a journalist. I heard that from so many people yesterday, saying thank you for being a real journalist, for going out there and covering the news, interviewing people, and providing insightful analysis about what's actually happening in the House of Commons every day. I was encouraged by that because sometimes you think, my God, I don't put clickbait out there because I'm not here to fool people. I'm not here to pretend it's all over for Justin Trudeau every week. I'm here to inform you about what you need to know. Like, this is some of the biggest news that's happening in Canada today, and the mainstream media will not cover it. They will not even acknowledge what's happened in terms of this phenomenal reaction from parents, this pushback from parents against this Pride season that has been imposed upon us. They won't even talk about it. They ignore it. This is why I'm out there at this rally reporting on it with real people, because this is so important. This is life-changing. Parents, Christian parents, Muslim parents, Jewish parents, Hindu parents, ones who say, I don't want my children raised by the state. I hear this from immigrants, new immigrants all the time. I came to Canada for freedom. Where I came from, the state was always interfering in my life. The state wanted to educate my children in a certain way. The state wanted to control our lives. The state wanted to take my kids away. I came to Canada because it was a land of freedom. And I discovered things had changed, and things were changing rapidly for the worse because of a man named Justin Trudeau. And this is why parents are pushing back. And this is why this is a multi-faith experience. This is a multi-ethnic experience. This unites people. Justin Trudeau wants to divide us. Justin Trudeau wants to put Muslim against Christian, against Jew, against Sikh, against Hindu. He wants all of these people fighting so he can rise up and control it. It's all about identity politics, not about unity politics. We are bringing together people of like minds because they believe in a traditional value called parental guidance and parental control of children, not state control. This is about freedom versus totalitarianism. This is about freedom versus slavery. And parents are saying, we're going to take our freedom back. We're going to take our children back. We're going to take our country back. And here's a guy I interviewed yesterday, and I think he says that quite well. This is an interview with David Walsh. So why did you come here today, David?
I came to stand for the freedom of our children, for the protection of our children. I'm a father and a grandfather, and one of the callings of a father and a grandfather is to protect, just like God, our Father God. loves us, loves all people, including the people perpetrating these crimes. We pray for them. And so we're standing for the children, and as I was sharing with my friends here, I believe we're going to see the greatest awakening to God in world history. It's already begun. So do not despair. The Lord is in this battle. We will win the battle because He's in the battle with us. And He loves the little children. He said, suffer the little children to come to me.
Yes.
He loves the children.
Now, I see you're carrying 3 flags here.
Yes.
The Great Britain, Canada, and the U.S. Is there any?
Great Britain.
Does that signify the unity we used to have as democracies, or
Well,
what?
I always say, people say, why are you flying the U.S. flag and now Great Britain? Because I'm praying for all 3 countries. And a revival to God come to all these 3 countries and all the nations, of course. A lot of Americans, we're going on vacation again in the U.S., the Adirondacks, so we need to stand for the freedom of our American brothers and sisters, and then, of course, the people of Great Britain. Many of us came here from Great Britain.
Yes.
And so God loves the nations. So, and the nations belong to Him. He purchased them with His blood. It says in Psalm chapter 2. He purchased the nations with His own shed blood. And He said that the nations would be His inheritance. Psalm 2 verse 8. So that's why I'm here.
That's why He was there. I think He says that quite well. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful Sunday, June 16th, Father's Day 2024. I'm a father too. My father's no longer with me, and I miss him every Father's Day. But I know where he is. So have a blessed Sunday. If you're a Christian, go to church. Or if you're not, go to your mosque or synagogue or temple. But celebrate being Canadian and celebrate being free. We haven't had the opportunity to do that very much in Canada of late because we're always being told what to do by the government. But celebrate the fact that we can still claim our freedom in this country. We're still free people. And until Justin Trudeau tries or completes his process of taking away our free speech, we still have the freedom to speak our minds. Even if that's not what Justin Trudeau wants to hear or what the Liberal government tolerates. Keep speaking your mind. Keep standing up for your freedom. Keep maintaining your religious freedom, your freedom to worship as you please, and your freedom to speak the truth as you see it. Thanks for joining me today. I'll be back again tomorrow with some more. Thank you for watching this episode of Stand on Guard and being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right channel. If you've watched this episode to this point, you've watched it all. And that's really important for a small station like this. We always say subscribe, hit the bell, be a part of the KRAYDEN resistance. Resolve to resist. That's what we're doing. And if you become a subscriber, if you're a supporter of this station or a member through Substack, through YouTube, and now you can be a local as well, that's so important to us because I couldn't do this without you. I made a decision to become an independent journalist about a year ago because I wanted to bring all of my experience in the military, in journalism, to you. I don't promise anything I can't deliver. I don't offer clickbait. I offer truth. The truth is out there, and it's my job to bring that truth to light and to you. Thanks for being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon. So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also